I don't know what to think of this. A few years ago, I was suffering from insomnia due to PTSD and what was later diagnosed as bipolar disorder. I didn't sleep for over a day and a half and was starting to get hallucinations until I had a full-blown mental breakdown. This led me to being sedated as soon as a paramedic got to me, and most of my memory before was a blur. All I remember was waking up in a normal hospital room, still panicking with dozens of doctors trying to stabilize me. The strange part is what happened the second or third time I was knocked out, for a series of what seemed like lifelike dreams, with me feeling a very weird, velvety shiver while I was basically paralyzed in a dark room that got more and more blindfully white. I would wake up to doctors shouting over me and just slip back into this dreamlike state where what appeared to be me, trapped in a pure white cell with nothing but ear-deafening screams in the background. What made it even more scary was that the screams sounded like they were coming from me, except I would only feel the screams when I woke up in between the dream and the awake state. While strapped to a hospital bed, blood started to roll down from the top of the walls, and all I could look at was a door that had this creepy-ass face smiling at me in the dark, as if the light couldn't penetrate through the wooden hospital door in this white-walled cell. Waking up, I saw that I ripped out my IV with my teeth while I was in my dream, and asked some ridiculous questions that I didn't mean to ask while nothing felt real. The last thing I remember is the room getting pitch black dark, while it felt like an eternity until I woke up again, to find that it was nighttime. While the hospital seemed closed and I was still strapped to my bed, I shouted as loud as I could for the one person I could see outside the door, begging him to just end my suffering and put a bullet to my head. When I finally recovered and woke up, I felt like a zombie with little or no thoughts through my head, which was weird, since I do have ADHD and always have like a bajillion things flowing through my head. I never fully recovered from this feeling until a month later, when I had a dream where there was a sun-like ray of light while I was in a similar pitch-black room, and I just felt this refreshing feeling come back to me as I woke up, and I felt normal again. I've usually just shrugged it off as a side effect of all the drugs they were pumping inside me, but as time went on and I kept thinking about it, I started to think about other possibilities. Could the side effects really last over a month? Was the dream I had a spiritual experience as much as it was a dream? Like if I experienced hell itself. Maybe I was possessed while I was unconscious, and something tore out my IV with my teeth. I still don't know if I can debunk it as just the drugs, of the side effects lasting for at least a month. I don't remember how long I was out during my stay in the hospital, since I lost track of time. What the hell was going on with me? Call from the dead. Not sure if this post belongs here, but this is true, and I've never been able to figure out what. What was actually happening? Not sure if any of these things could help identify what went on. I've seen many posts about SP, which I've had, which is incredibly terrifying, so this 100% was not like anything regarding that. Also, to take into account, I have sensed energies or entities, places, sixth sense, although I cannot physically see them. Had this since I was extremely young. I lived in a haunted house. Long story short, took a pic that 5 people saw and deleted itself off a camera. My intuition has saved me from death 7+ and counting in my life. On to what this is about. Kinda short, but it doesn't need a huge story. So, about 6 years back, I was dating a girl who was extremely spiritual, completely opened my eyes to different aspects of life, death, and such. I always left my cell phone next to the bed, in case anyone ever needed me in the middle of the night. No one ever called me past, let's say, 2 a.m., unless something bad happened. I have bad insomnia sometimes, worse than others, but this night, I was able to fall asleep at a normal time, 10 p.m. or so, and my significant other was also fast asleep. I had woken up at 3 a.m. exactly to my cell phone ringing. In a daze of sleep, I quickly pick up the phone, not looking at the number. I hear an echoing voice. It was like an underwater sounding, repeating, please, please help me. Get my father, please. Creepy as this is, here's the kicker. It was my friggin' significant other's voice, to a T on the phone. Now that my attention is wide awake, I'm awake, sitting up on my bed as this thing repeats again, please, please. And it's calling my name. Please, get my father, I need help. I took a step back to the above-mentioned intuition feelings. Hearing this thing on the phone repeat that, my stomach dropped. I knew she was dying. Now completely friggin' freaked out, I move my leg and realize there's a body next to me. It's her sleeping. And I start violently shaking her, asking if she's here next to me. This person or thing on the phone is still begging me for help. As I'm shaking, my significant other, the one laying next to me, says who's on the phone, and sees my terrified look, and her voice on the phone repeats loud enough, it wasn't on speaker, for the plea for help for her father once again, and the drowned echo voice. Now my significant other hears that, and her eyes widen, and realize it's her voice on the phone, and we both look at the number, and it's 111, 111, 1111. And I say her name over the phone, asking, how can I help? And we both watch as whatever it is hangs up or disconnects. The number was untraceable by the phone company and didn't even show up in the records for my cell. This was one of the creepiest things that's ever happened in my life. Looking up similar things, all I can find here are calls from the dead. But she was very much alive and next to me listening to her own cries for help. Could this have been a call from another dimension? We to this day have zero explanation, and I can never shake the feeling that she was dying on the phone as she begged me for help. I'm having trouble sleeping. Okay, so I've only ever told one person about this, and that was my best friend, who I'd had for many years. My family is very level-headed when it comes to the paranormal, but I just really want to tell someone else and see if anyone could maybe help me figure this out. So basically, almost every night, there's something that makes it hard for me to sleep. Recently, it's been falling. You know those dreams you get when you're halfway between being awake and asleep? Well, I get these dreams. They go normally until suddenly something appears right in front of me and I trip, or the floor falls away and I drop, and then I wake up with a jolt. Normal enough so far, but when I wake up, my entire mattress bounces under me as if I just jumped up and dropped onto it. My friend said it could be me sitting up and slamming myself back down, but it can't be that, because I sleep on my side, with one hand under my head and the other around my stomach, and that's how I always wake up. On other nights, it's a footstep in the corner of the room by the door. I'll just be about to drift off when it happens. Before, I concluded that it was just my downstairs neighbors, but it's been going on for a long time now, and it sounds exactly like a heavy boot on carpet. It's always in the corner by the door, and it's always only one or two. This last one hasn't happened so much in recent times, but it still occurs once in a while. A single bang on my window. There's nothing outside my window that can make that noise. I used to think that maybe the neighbor's cat, but then I realized there wasn't any way for it to get to my windowsill. It's almost always happened around 2 or 3 in the morning, and it sounds like someone hitting the pane or a small rock hitting the glass. Like I said, this doesn't happen as much as it used to, but at one point, It was almost every night. There's more things that have happened, but these are the most common as of late. These things happen almost every night for the past month or so. I've been suffering from insomnia for a while now, and even on the nights when these things don't happen, I'm constantly paranoid. Does this happen to anyone else? It gives me a strange feeling, just writing about it. He speaks with chalk. This happened a couple years ago. It is long, so please bear with me. I'm a very spiritually sensitive individual. I'm an empath, if you will, although I don't necessarily like that word. And I believe in God. My family moved into a new home when I was 14 years old. I couldn't sleep in my room for 2 years because the energy in there was so nerve-wracking. You could just feel how thick everything was, and it would give me nightmares or insomnia. My brother asked me one day why I never slept in my room and always slept on the couch downstairs. I gave him my reasons. Then he asked me what was giving it off. I have chalk in my room, and every time my friends came over and hung out with me in my room, I'd asked if they'd like to write something. So I eventually had like 50 people write on my wall. People I just met, my best friends, anyone could write absolutely anything. It's a cool way to make everyone feel welcome, but eventually, the energy was so large it was overwhelming, and it gave off a demonic presence. So, little me being about 18 and still afraid of spirits, I slept on the couch from 16 to 18. After I explained that to him, my brother said he thought that was the reason, and he told me to go upstairs and wipe everything off with a wet towel, and it'll be up there when it's over, so I did. I went upstairs and started wiping everything off my walls. I really thought I was going to have an anxiety attack while I was doing it, because I was disrupting something, and the spirits were not happy about losing their ground. But after an hour or so, I washed it all off. My brother came upstairs to my room, and he wrote 2 Bible verses on one side of my wall, super large print, and he told me to sit in a chair, and he was going to pray with me. So we both sat down, and he began to pray. He was expelling demons in the Creator's name. Eventually, the anxiety went away, and I felt a sense of warmth. At the end of my brother's prayer, he said, "Creator, please show us you are here and have moved in this place." So after that, we both left the room and went downstairs for a second. I got my blanket from the couch and went upstairs. By the way, before I say anything else, it was only me and my brother inside the house. No one else was home. Anyways, went upstairs into my room and I walked to my closet. There was a number 33 written in pink to the right of my closet door. It was small, but still there. I glanced up to the top wall of my closet. There was also another 33 written in pink, very small. I ran downstairs to my brother and asked if he had done that, because we both know what that number holds. And we seriously both walked down the stairs at the same time, and stayed downstairs until I came up with my blanket. We searched for the color of chalk that was used, and it was nowhere. Usually, when something like that happens, it's either 3 or 5. In certain Hebrew stories or enlightened institutional knowledge, so me and my brother looked for the 3rd and 5th one for an hour and we could not find it. Later I turned to my brother and said, "Well, I'm not sure where it is, but this is holy, so I'm gonna shut this door and take my shoes off." And right when I grabbed the door handle, I looked at my door sliding, and 4 friggin' inches from my face, straight eye level, was a number 33 written in pink, very small, and I flipped my shit. I freaked out, for real. I fell down, overwhelmed with the spiritual energy that I just encountered. My brother flipped his shit too. Anyways, for the past couple years or so, the 2 others have shown up, but it's not in chalk. It's like from a finger on a dirty wall, one on the side of my bed, and another closer to my TV. Just thought I'd share. Middlebridge Road. Insomnia is getting the better of me right now, and I've always wanted to put this one experience of mine to text, particularly because it was my first time something happened I could not explain. Warning, it's a wall of text, but if people like this, I'll write up some more experiences. When I was 16 years old, my dad had told me about a backwoods road called Middlebridge. The legend was that a teenage couple was running late for curfew. As they entered the woods, their car was facing along the road. As the road drops down deeping into the woods, it heads directly perpendicular to the river, until it makes a 90-degree right turn to run beside it. A couple hundred yards later, it makes again another 90-degree turn, only this time left to cross the bridge. Since the couple was driving too fast, the boy ran their car off the bridge into the river, killing both of them. My father said that, when he was our age, they would drive down to the bridge at night and turn off their car. Out of the woods, they would see shadows and their car would begin to shake. This is the legend that initially brought us out to this area. We were at my grandparents' one night, and I was asking my dad for directions to get to Middlebridge. My aunt chimed it up to a story of her own. At the beginning of the woods was an old farmhouse. She had some friends who bought the house, but moved soon after that. Pictures would fall off the walls, chairs would slide across the old hardwood, doors would open and close. It was enough to spook her friends out of there after only a few months of occupancy. As far as she knew, everyone that moved in would move out shortly afterwards. I took these stories to my friends with directions to get there. We piled into the cars late one Friday night, and a group of us, about 8 people, 2 carloads, headed to Middlebridge. Now, we followed my dad's directions, but a lot had changed over the years. As we entered Middlebridge, we were rather disappointed, to say the least. In a quarter-mile stretch, we passed a new office building, some new subdivisions, as well as construction areas for new ones going on in. And all this was about a half a mile from a main road in town. Not exactly what we pictured. We reached a point where a gate blocked our way and we had to walk on foot. About 25 yards down the gated road, it became gravel and sloped. Another 50 yards led us to an old cemetery. Cool, but the new houses next to it didn't add much to the ambience of creepiness. As we continued down the gravel road, another 100 yards or so, we saw it. The bridge. Then we realized why there was a gate. The bridge was washed out. We could tell it was old, as it looked to be mostly stone. Old green moss covered the gray blocks of stone. The complete center was missing, though. No doubt had fallen into the river below during high waters. Then it hit us. We were on the wrong side of this damn bridge. Now, this was 2005, and though that doesn't seem too long ago, it was. It was before everyone had iPhones and could immediately Google directions to get where they needed to go. Luckily, I had a Garmin in my glove box, and after trial and error, we found how we needed to go to the other side. Remember how I said that this side of the middle bridge was less than a mile off the main road? Well, the other side was quite a ways out. We circumvented out into the county, about 10 miles, and backtracked around. We went from being in the city suburbs on one side of the bridge to farmland and backwoods on the other side. On this side, the road was so overgrown that no gate was needed. Down trees were covered in years of vegetation that was impossible to even walk on the road. We had to walk in the cornfield alongside the woods until we reached the river, and then fight our way back into the trees. It was eerie reaching the bottom of the woods by the river. The vegetation thinned out, and the trees went from thick, old trunks to young, thin saplings. The moon was bright out, and as far as you could see into the woods was just slim trees with now undergrowth. The fog hovered a few feet off the ground. I could see why my dad said he would see shadows move through the trees. The visual could easily play tricks on your mind. We reached the bridge and hung around for a few minutes. We waited in silence to see what would happen, but nothing, other than the creepy background It seemed like the ghosts were more afraid of us that night. We began our hike out of the woods and back up the hill. Just as my aunt described, the house resided off the road right before the woods. We decided to not let the trip go to waste, and to check out the house instead. No cars were outside and the lights were off, so we assumed it would be okay to just walk around it for a little bit. I need to mention that I brought my digital camera with me. I had been snapping pictures of the woods and bridge while down there with fresh batteries in hope of catching something paranormal. Other than the occasional orbs. Just kidding. Water droplets. I had no luck so far. As soon as I snapped the first picture of the house, my camera died on me though. Mind you, these were fresh batteries that hadn't gone through 30 pictures so far. It was strange, but ultimately, I didn't think much of it at the time. As we were snooping around outside, it became clear that no one was living here after all. The outside was overgrown, screen doors were torn, electrical wires from the pole was torn. It was clear no one had been here for a while. I hear one of my friends shout, "Hey, it's open!" We ran around back as he eased open the back door. Now, I wish I could remember more about our time in the house. What I do remember is this. There was no light anywhere on the property, other than our flashlights. We flicked switches on everything, but the house had power abandoned long ago, it seemed. As we shined our lights into the house, it looked like someone one day had just said fuck it, packed a bag, walked out, and never came back. There were dishes in the sink still, old food in the cupboard. All the furniture was still there, and the TV still sat in the living room. On the bed was an open suitcase with clothes inside it. Just imagine walking out of your front door right this instant, and coming back later to everything covered in dust. That's how this place was. We poked around for a bit, stood in silence, did the whole ask questions thing. It was completely eerie and unsettling being there. We didn't last long in there before we all decided to leave. We exited back out the back door from the darkness of the house to the moonlit yard. We headed back to our cars and stopped for a cigarette between our cars and the house. We stood in the darkness, only accompanied by the glow of our burning embers. Just then, a light switched on. The very back porch we just exited now had a faint light slowly shining brighter in the upper ceiling. I ran pretty quickly that night. We got into our cars and booked it off of Middle Bridge. Even now, I'm not sure how that light came on. Old farmhouses like that were cut off long ago. Other than a generator, I'm not sure, and even then, we would have heard it. We also checked every corner of the house and didn't find anyone there, so I can't really wrap my head on how. We returned a couple more times. I brought a disposable camera the second time, and every picture on the roll came out black. The third time, I brought extra batteries with me for my digital camera, but the batteries either died or the pictures came out black with a flash on. If you go there now, the house is gone. I guess someone decided it was time to demolish it and move on. The road to the bridge is completely swallowed as well. Without knowing about it, you would just assume the road ends in a peculiar way. Though under the vegetation down the hill and along the river, you can still find the old stones covered in moss of Middle Bridge Road.